I decided I'm going to take a course, and that course was in learning to edit all the software because I've been a Adobe evangelist for a while, and I just thought it makes sense for me to learn how to use some of these products a little more than what an average person does. So I decided I'm going to take a crash course. And the place that I chose was, the place where I'm going to get the principal of the school. Really, no, that may be an exaggeration, but I think I really would like to get to you, the CEO of Aptech, which is where I took the course, and I absolutely loved it. So a lot of the videos and the photographs and all that stuff that you see, that is all courtesy what I learned at Aptech. So today I'm so delighted to have the CEO of Aptech, Anuj Kakkar. Anuj has been, one of the people I've known for a while, and I love the way that he has contributed for almost 4 decades in this whole business of education and skill building, for an area which is growing rapidly. The creator economy is growing massively, and so I just thought it would make great sense to have Anuj talk about his work and what he's thinking of it. Just a quick, two-line bio. He has actually been with Aptech now for what, Anuj, 21 years?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
My word. I mean, that's pretty amazing. 2 decades, at Aptech. He's a board member, and he's also been part of many, many government initiatives, really holds a really big picture view. So without any further ado, uh, Anuj, you actually went to IIT for your engineering and then went to IIM Kolkata for an MBA. And how did you get involved in education and skilling? What was that backstory?
Uh, well, of course, IIT, IIM were the kind of foundational years, and we remember them very fondly. Uh, but thereafter, post IIM, I moved into a variety of different industries, from consumer durables. I was in paints, and it was a bit serendipitous that actually I went into education. But once I was there, I never left it. And that was a good more than 2 decades back. It's been very exciting journey. It's a very satisfying journey. More than it's certainly more than a job. The kind of work that one gets to do, really impacting, and in a very, very genuine sense, in a very, uh, I'm not talking really from a social kind of aspect, but in a very personal level, where a student comes and feels happy that he gets a job because of the work that he has been able to do in one of our institutes. And that some way is very, very satisfying. That's what's really driven me all these years. Yeah, it's been lovely.
The real personal story about where I, on first day when I joined, Aptech for the course, which I signed up to do, which I know you recommended that I do that course. It was really fabulous. The funny story is that when I went into the class, everybody out there was like, in their 20s, including, I think the instructor must have been 25. So he said, are you the center in charge, or are you the person who is from Aptech corporate office? And I said, no, no, I'm a student. And he asked me, so why do you want to do this course? Is your promotion dependent on it, or is your increment dependent on it? And I said, no, none of the above. It's just, I love the work that you do, and I just thought I'm going to learn it. And so,
Yeah, I mean, it's more historical than anything, and it's fast changing, and it better change, And
yeah.
uh, over the course of this conversation itself, we can dive a little bit more onto it as to why it's happening. There are fundamental reasons, and as I see things, is going to change very, very dramatically. You will have a much more dispersed cohorts in every class or every kind of skill set that is going. Age is not going to be a factor, and it better not be a factor.
Of course, and going by the fact that right now I'm 21, so it probably makes sense to say that you must have people like me also in your cohort, and
Yeah.
more. Do you see that happening? Do you see who is predominantly the student that you are catering to, and how large is Aptech today? Because I remember being quite numbed by the numbers that you're in. What I mean, you've got how many, 500 officers? How many?
We have about 700 schools all over the world in about more than 20 countries. A large portion of them is in India. Well, in terms of impact, we train roughly about 100,000 students a year across these 700 institutes. And but there was a time maybe 10 to 15 years back, when a large portion of this students used to be people who've just passed out of class 12. And that's a time when one is trying to figure out what just what kind of domain that one wants to pursue a career in. And that used to be the median for us. But as years have passed, we have seen that we are getting younger people as well. We're getting older people, people who are doing it in the graduation, post graduation, people who are working professionals. So the curve has widened. Certainly, the bell curve has certainly widened, while it's somewhere centered still around the people who had passed the 10+2 in Indian system or an A+ in the Western system. That's a kind of, and roughly they're at about 18 years of age at that particular point of time. And but the spread is anywhere from 15 to 45.
And what, when you look at the kind of jobs that they aspire to do, and where do they get absorbed? What kind of jobs do people get when they do a course in this kind of a place?
We have chosen to remain very, very focused in the kind of domains that we offer our courses in. A large portion of our courses are in the creative technologies or the visual arts. And the stuff like animation, visual effects, gaming, digital art, graphics, those kind of technologies and those kind of skills is what we focus on. Other than that, of course, we are there in by legacy in the area of ICT. We're there as well in the area of beauty and wellness. So yeah, that's also there.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know about this part of Aptech, that you are also in the beauty and IT.
Everything we've got it covered, from beauty to IT, we've got it covered. Yeah.
I remember when India won, the initial days of Aishwarya Rai and Sushmita Sen. When they won those crowns of Miss Universe, Miss World, and all that, and somebody was saying that now we've already always been strong in IT, and now we also have covered beauty. So Aptech is in that same league now. You're covering beauty and IT together.
Absolutely.
When people look for jobs, I mean, so do people who graduate from Aptech, do they find jobs in the corporate world? Do they find jobs with the creator economy? What kind of options do they create for themselves?
Well, obviously, the people who are specializing in, let's say, animation work in studios, they work in various architectural firms, they work in ad agencies, they work in broadcast studios, but essentially where content is being created in a large way. And of course, now for the last, let's say, 5 to 7 years, there is obviously, as you are well aware, and you've written books on that, how the gig economy has kind of gained momentum. So a lot of people also do their own work, freelance in a big way. So there's also that. But the vast majority of our students still prefer getting into what they call let's call it a job, but it's more of a fungible job where they're doing some bit of moonlighting, where they're doing a job along with it. At the end of the day, they're fulfilling their dreams and their passion. That's the way I look at it. Because there are very few people who would, come in and think that, okay, they themselves are not able to visualize the kind of work that they're going to be able to do post the course. And once they get into it, they're hooked onto it for life. Yeah.
I absolutely agree, because when I started to do the course, I actually went in with a very limited perspective that I just really want to learn a little bit about editing a video, and that's pretty much it. But you kind of realize that there are so many packages that you can learn, and this is evolving every single day. You find something new, and then you add 2 of those packages, you create something which is miraculous, and it just sounds so fascinating. So I was really hooked onto it. When you think about the opportunities going forward, one hypothesis I have is that I think we are going to be in a world where there are going to be fewer jobs and more work. What it means is this whole bundling of multiple pieces of work to create a job, that's actually going to diminish. We already see early signs of that. And I think the work that you are doing is going to be very powerful, because this enables you to be an entrepreneur. So maybe one of the pieces that I would really think about is, could AppTech also add in the element of how to be a entrepreneur, not just a creator, but an entrepreneur? Because in the absence of that, it's very hard to get started on your own, and that sort of demoralizes a lot of people. Uh,
You're bang on. You're bang on. The number of people who want to have the requisite skills to become an entrepreneur,
Mm.
and becoming an entrepreneur is slightly different than just knowing the skill by itself. Uh, we do run courses for those people as well, and we also have a separate division which specializes in giving people add-ons, and people those of who are interested in setting up, let's say, a studio of their own, or doing something on their own, even gig work,
yeah.
which is a kind of it requires certain skills which are outside the normal domain of one would call a career skill itself. So we try and inculcate those as well. But more importantly, in built into the pedagogy itself are many variety of events, variety of techniques that we have kind of built into the system of teaching, so that by the time the student passes out, he is more and more comfortable in doing work on his own. He's comfortable in doing work in teams. He's comfortable in doing work under pressure. So those are the kind of real job oriented skills, the kind of things that he's going to really face once he hits the floor, is what we try to build into the his daily routine in the classes and off classes as well. So it's something which we have honed over 3 decades. We are more than 3 decades old company. So yeah, so far we've been able to do that for vast majority of our people, and we've got amazing placement rate as well. So yeah, so it's working.
And I definitely think that, when you look at the opportunity that the creator economy provides today, more and more, and especially now with AI coming in, it is really shaping not just the creator economy, but education as such. And I know that you have spoken a lot about that, and I would love to bring your ideas to my guests. So how is that changing? What is AI doing as far as education? Let's talk about that, and then we'll look at the downstream effects of AI.
Well, the way I look at it, is that if you have to look at what's going to happen to the education system because of AI, or in the AI world, it's sometimes useful to step back many decades and centuries to see how education skills really have evolved. I mean, if you go back to the pre-industrial revolution days, what was there? There was hand skills, there was dexterity which was required,
Mhm.
and there was family and the guilds in Europe which were kind of passing down that training to the young people in the family or in the guilds. And so they were thinkers and they were doers, but they were different sets of people. And as the people practiced, they became better. So what was needed was practice. What was needed was experience. Now let's cut quickly to the post the industrial revolution. What happened? The dexterity of the hand became little less important because now you had machines to do those tasks, but you had to develop new skills. You needed a little more of resilience because now you needed to do the same repetitive tasks over and over again. You needed mobility. You suddenly had the first time in history where people needed to move out of their homes and stay in strange big cities. So you needed to develop social skills. You needed to develop survival skills. So those were kind of skills change which was needed at that stage. Now, of course, when the digital revolution came and the internet came, what happened? The cognitive skills suddenly became important. The doers and the sort of thinkers or the brain users started coalescing. So now you have to use your brains as well as do things. And the education system evolved in a way to provide these kind of skills. And this gave birth to what we now today call the knowledge worker. Certainly, because, and that's where we are today, really. Now with AI coming in, and even before AI, we had COVID. COVID was the kind of event which, from a skilling section, was very, very important to understand. For the first time in the history of recent history of humankind, was where experience was devalued, because you had completely new situations, you had completely zero based thinking which was required. Nothing was com- uh, business as usual. So what
And
really was,
nothing that you learned before was actually relevant anymore because of COVID. So people were forced to think of new solutions, new ideas.
yeah, and therefore experience is what? Experience is something that I've done same thing for 20 times, so I'm going to do it for the 21st time that much easier and that much faster. That's really what experience is, as opposed to somebody who's trying to do it for the first time. But in COVID, everybody is doing things for the first time. So
True.
whether you're a 20-year experienced person or a newbie, you are at the same plane, and you
Mm.
have to suddenly work together. So, and no sooner had COVID gone, and we're kind of just about settling down, was when suddenly we are find ourselves in the midst of the AI world. Now, what to my mind AI is doing, you know, AI is doing and is going to do it even more rapidly going forward. It's going to reduce the cost of knowledge acquisition. It's going to reduce the cost of retention, knowledge retention. It's going to reduce the cost of dissemination of knowledge. This will plummet and may reach near zero. So, what happens when imbibing knowledge, getting knowledge, everything is free and very easy? The premium which is today accorded to knowledge workers would gradually decline and might even exponentially decline. And therefore, the education system and the skilling system needs to reinvent itself to be able to adapt to this kind of a situation where it's not knowledge which you're trying to give as one is doing today. What else one has to do is a thing which we can discuss going forward. But certainly, the current education system needs to question itself very, very seriously.
Who needs to do more of a questioning and reinvention? Is it the higher education institutions? Is it the skill building institutions like yours? Is it the mid school, junior school? Where, at which stage should people really start doing it? Or should it be done by the individual and the family? Or who should be doing this?
Actually, it's all, the very, very clearly the author. Let's take it one by one. Let's look at, let's say, the formal education system.
Hmm.
Now, what is the formal education system today? If you really, really break it down,
Yeah.
uh, there is a learning objective,
Right. Right.
there is a curriculum. Somebody decides that, okay, for this learning objective, this is the curriculum which is needed. Some content or books are built up for teaching those curriculum. Then the students go to the classes where the content is taught. Then they're assessed on that particular how they've imbibed that knowledge, and at the end of the day they're getting their certification. This is what we basically today call formal education.
Sure.
Now, a student takes this process, and then he tries to monetize this process. So he goes and offers it to others who are going to value such the knowledge that he has gained. What we today call as doing a job. What is job?
Mhm.
It's a monetization of learning, which I have learned. So the current system is very amenable to having a condensed learning phase followed by a long monetization phase, which is your entire rest of your 30 years of professional life. Now, in the AI is going to change this dramatically. Now, in the foreseeable AI world, where knowledge is available on tap, workers will acquire knowledge which has much shorter shelf life,
Sure.
but which is monetizable much more quickly. And therefore, it will be a constant process of learning, monetization, learning something else, monetization, monetizing that, because it's a very dynamic situation which is getting created, both for the educator as well as the student or the person concerned. So it's going to become a collaboration of sorts, is the way I would like to put it. And it's going to be very dramatic. It's going to be very exciting as well in such a way. It can be also be very scary for some people. So it's going to be all of these things put together.
When you are describing it, it sort of almost seems to me that the graph is going to go from being horizontal to being a circle. So what I mean by that is, It was learning, earning, and retirement. Which is in my book Career 3.0. I describe that as Career 1.0. So, which is the traditional format that you pick up a skill when you are in college. You pick up education actually, and then you build your skill through experience. You try doing the same thing, and which is why you get better and better as you do it over 15, 20, 30 years. Therefore, somebody with 20 years experience knows how to do something better than somebody with 2 years of experience. Yeah, that's really the model. But in the world that we are living in today, the skill that you are acquiring, within 2.5, 3 years, that skill becomes fairly obsolete. So the half life of a skill is shortened. So also, what is happening is the employer is looking for proficiency in the skill. Are you really good at doing that particular skill? So in that sense, you can learn and earn in a very rapid circle. But what it also means is you have to periodically retire your skill. You don't retire, but the skill gets retired pretty quickly. And I think that's really the model that is going to become prevalent everywhere, not just in the creator economy, but even in the other places. When I look around with my clients and systems, that's really what I see happening. That
Yeah,
people have a sense of anxiety.
you're bang on, you're bang on. That's exactly what it's already happening, and AI is going to accelerate it at a speed which we haven't seen till now, because everything is going to become dynamic. Every piece of learning is dynamic, and it's going to become very easy to learn. When it becomes very easy to learn, necessarily the monetization cycle of that will naturally be shorter. The value which people will be willing to pay for that skill will be lesser. So you are forced into a situation where you constantly have to upgrade yourself, if upgrade is the word, or regrade yourself.
How is the role of AppTech, changing, or the curriculum is changing? Because today I can actually go onto a YouTube video and learn, a particular software package. What does AppTech do, which is different from my learning by myself? And I'll give you the answer to what I think the answer is. Of course, as a sort of alumnus of AppTech. So, tell me about that.
Yeah, I think, and I speak about this a lot to our students. The you mentioned that you've learned certain technologies and certain skills while you were at Aptech. That's great, but I'm sure by the time you have today, when you're talking about it, those softwares or those skills are already obsolete,
Absolutely.
and you are no longer using what was taught to you, because
Yeah.
newer things have come in, and you have gone ahead in life. So the question which we go on asking ourselves at Aptech is, what exactly are we doing then? Are we trying to teach students for 3 years and get them the first job, and that's the end of it? Obviously, that cannot be the answer. We have to prepare them for the next 30 years of their professional life. Now, that's easier said than done. So how does one try and do those kind of things? Let's take a very concrete situation. Let's assume that we are training a person to become a animation professional. He's trying to become an animator. Now, if he's trying to become an animator, he aspires to join one of the big studios in this country. That sounds great. Now, once he is there, he suddenly realizes that while he was great at his work while he was in the institute, suddenly he has to work with 5 other people who really not as good as him, but they're part of his team. And so the teamwork part of it has to be taught at the time when he was learning. He cannot learn this on the job. That's too late. He has to then suddenly learn. He has a deadline to meet. If he has a deadline to meet, then he's under pressure to deliver excellence in a pressure cooker situation. So he has to, those pressure cooker situations have to be simulated through projects, through events, through competitions, while he is studying, so that every possible or a large portion of possible situations which he will encounter in his job are tried to build into the learning process itself. So he's seen that, and over a period of time he gets used to it. And we try and use a lot of those kind of techniques to be able to ensure that we have trained a person not for his first job, but at least for his large portion of his career, which includes, of course, communication skills, personality skills, and the rest of it. So it's a pretty much all-round package is what we are trying to build in.
I absolutely agree, because I think, what I would say is, when I compare the level of stress in a creator role, creative work, let's just keep it very broad based, versus, let's say, things which are far more, in the corporate world, bulk of the work which is there has got one answer, one correct answer. This is what is expected, this is what you aim to derive. So therefore, when in the corporate world, which is, where there is a single answer problem, those kind of things also have deadlines. But it's basically a question of arriving at the correct answer. Think about it like solving a complex math problem, that you when you are learning it, you have no way how it is going to happen, and then in the examination you are stressed because you have to figure it out within that time span. The challenge is that in a creative space, when you have a deadline, there is no one right answer, and the client may decide to say, hey, this is not what I want. Then in which case, within that deadline, you are doing it 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 times. So I think the stress to find an open-ended solution is way more, and that is what I learned. And therefore, when they simulate this and the person says, no, this is not good. First time when it was done, I was pretty annoyed. I said, well, this looks pretty good to me. He said, no, this is not what I want. And well, so you just go ahead and do it. And when he did it a second time and a third time, I just thought it was very powerful. And then once it was over, then he sort of explained and decoded it for me, because I was saying that, this is, I thought the first one was pretty good too. And this is, of course, better. I agree, it is better. And he said that, well, we, because of lack of time, we've done it in 3 iterations. But remember, there will be a client who will ask for 15 iterations. There'll be a client who will ask for 30 iterations. You're in a movie, and the movie actor, needs a certain kind of visual effect. That is going to be very different. So you better learn that. And I thought that was really, for me, the value of doing something at a place like Aptech rather than doing it on YouTube, which I could have learned this. So the hard skill is what you can always pick up, but it's the soft skills when you learn in that environment which is precious.
Yeah, exactly. Again, we joke around in the creative world that creativity doesn't end. You only stop when either the budget runs out or the time runs out.
Yeah.
So otherwise, you go on iterating and going on improving on what you've already done. So it's in one sense a never-ending process. Unlike, as you very correctly said, once you arrived at the correct maths answer, that's it. You can stop.
Anuj, I also know that there's a little secret about you, which I'm going to spell out to the audience, which is that I know that you are interested in Urdu poetry. You do write poetry yourself, and also that you have great interest in not just technology, which is obvious, but also philosophy and history. So, I would love to have you talk about some of your poetry to the audience.
Oh, well, yeah, poetry is a great stress buster for me, and of course, Urdu poetry is particularly close to my heart. Where there's Ghalib, Amir, and many others. They're very profound. They kind of tend to fit every situation which one encounters in one's life. So that's been a great stress buster for me, as has been reading philosophy. I read philosophy more from an academic perspective rather than from a sense of trying to imbibe or follow one particular philosophy school. But yeah, today there's so much out there to know and so much out there to figure out why things happen the way they happen, that you need those kind of constructs to be able to make sense of it all. So yeah, and history is a great teacher to me as well. I've been fortunate that my work takes me around the globe, and today I don't have a count really, but maybe around 35 odd countries I must have been to. And one goes there and one tries to interact with the locals, and one is easily able to find the differences or the nuances in the way they speak, the words they choose, the food they eat, and they all some way correlated to their historical situation. And it's great fun trying to piece together those little dots and figure out why they are doing what they are doing today.
Anuj, you also write poetry, Urdu poetry at that. Would love to have you recite something for the audience. Look forward to having you back again in future also for another conversation. Meanwhile, thank you for all the great work that you do.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure talking to you as always. And please, I've loved your podcast. I've seen quite a few of them, and I've read, I think, a couple of your books. So it's great work that you're doing. I mean,